In this video, I'll share with you 7 need-to-know social media statistics about video. For example, did you know that Facebook videos receive 135% more organic reach on average than a Facebook photo? It's true. What else do you need to know about video on social media? You'll learn it all coming up.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Tools, the show where in 10 minutes or less, you're going to get a dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills, joined as always by the boss man, Brady Shearer.
Alex, I was speaking at a conference just yesterday, and one of the conference attendees came up to me after my talk and asked, how can I diversify what we're posting on social media? And the first thing that came to mind was using all of the different mediums that social makes available to us. So if you're doing a lot of photo, make sure that you're also engaging with video as well.
Right.
And in this episode, we want to share 7 need-to-know social media statistics about video that demonstrate not only the power of video, but also its ability to bypass certain algorithmic necessities that say that our organic reach is going to go down, and just illustrate how amazing social media video can be.
Well, Brad, we've been talking a lot about video recently, and especially how it relates to social media and the strategies that we should be employing as churches. We've been talking about video for a long time because it does perform differently on social platforms than other kinds of content. And I think these statistics kind of give some really good insight into why and how, and we're going to get some great insight from this information here today.
Statistic number 1, tweets with video attracted 10 times more engagement than tweets without video, and that comes directly from Twitter. We all know that attention and engagement are so important on social, and if you can simply swap out a photo or text for a video, just change the mediums, and that will on average up your engagement by 10 times, that is a no-brainer.
Well, on Twitter, it's kind of like a text-dominated feed. That's just how it's designed. And so I find I don't see a lot of videos on Twitter relative to other social platforms. And so when I do see a video, I'm much more likely to click.
Statistic number 2, where both video and text are available on the same page, 72% of people would rather use video to learn about a product or service. So again, this comes to disseminating information and sharing information with the world and your audience. It seems that most would prefer video over text.
That's me.
Statistic number 3, this is my favorite statistic of all. If you hear anything from this episode, this is what you should be paying attention to. This comes directly from HubSpot, and I quote, "There's a popular misconception that people will generally only share frivolous entertainment videos, i.e. cats and or epic fails, but our findings suggest that if you create video content that your specific audience enjoys, 83% of consumers would consider sharing it with their friends."
Wow.
What I love about this is that there is this misconception that the stuff that performs best on social is the kind of meaningless, empty calorie content that we love to share because it's just fun. But the findings from HubSpot suggest that if you are a church and you're creating content that is really meaningful and valuable for your audience, so maybe one of the 5 social media templates that we talked about on a previous episode of Pro Church Tools, this is the type of stuff that people are very willing and likely to share. And so when I think about sharing the gospel with the world, I think of a person sharing of a post that I make that shares an entire passage of scripture, and then my church clicks that share button, endorses that, and expands that post's reach to their entire sphere of influence and family and friends on social. That is an amazing way to share the message of Jesus. That's missions work right there. And again, it all comes down to just using the video medium as a starting point.
That's incredible. And we talk about sharing, how it is like the highest form of public endorsement on social. And as far as interactions, whether it be likes, comments, or shares kind of sit atop of that hierarchy as the most valuable engagement that we can get on social. But that means it's probably the most difficult to get. And so this stat gives you some really great insight into how to get more shares. Well, create specific video content for your audience. And we have a pretty good idea as churches of who our audience is, so it shouldn't be that hard for us.
Like, we know that more than half of all American adults wish they read the Bible more. 58%.
Of all American adults, not just Christians.
Exactly. So if you made a video that shared an entire passage of scripture using the Bible reading template that we talked about and we talk about a lot, And you knew that when you created that, it would trigger a huge number of shares because we know that video content is very shareable based on the findings from HubSpot.
Yep.
What you're basically doing is you're creating an entire mission strategy using social, where you're taking the words of Jesus and knowing the way that social works and the existing culture, the way that we interact with media online. You're knowing that that reach of those words of Jesus is going to have an exponential impact because people are going to share it with their friends and people are wanting to read the Bible. And now your mission strategy is using social to accomplish that goal where there's already a felt need.
Yeah.
That is missions for the 21st century, for 2019 and beyond.
This is why we say that social and digital is becoming its own ministry. This is why we say it. This is why we and why we believe it, because this, like you said, this is missions in action. This has a broader scope than we could ever have dared to imagine, and especially using shares and creating content that people are going to want to share. This is just incredible.
Go into all the world.
Yeah.
Guess what? All the world is in one place. It's never been easier.
Right.
Stat number 4, by 2020, online videos will make up more than 80% of all consumer internet traffic. That's 85% in the US.
Wow.
Only. What that means is that if you begin investing in video content, this is not a short-sighted strategy. This is only going to go up. We're at the beginning of this trend. It's only going to become more pervasive. So invest now because it's going to be worth it in the long run. Statistic number 5, Facebook videos receive 135% more organic reach on average than a Facebook photo. Again, the algorithm is a mystery, but it's always giving us little clues as to what we can do to increase our organic reach. And if you're a church that's not willing or able to spend a ton on social, just using videos is a great way to boost your organic reach automatically. Statistic number 6, nearly 2/3 of consumers prefer video under 60 seconds. And this points to the importance of micro content and taking something that's more long form and making it more digestible in a short form format, which is perfectly conducive for social. On Instagram, you can't even have a video in the feed that's longer than 60 seconds. That's why IGTV exists. And so this is something that you need to begin thinking through. How can we take our content and turn it into micro content, short form in nature? Right. And then finally, statistic number 7, 85% of Facebook video is watched without sound because of the autoplay feature. And this is why captions are so important.
Right.
Recognize that when your video is going to be shared on social, the vast majority, 8.5 persons out of 10, will not consume it with sound. Wow. So how can you compensate for that? Inherently recognizing that the vast majority are not going to turn on sound. The bare minimum, you got to have captions on. But how can we begin using different types of videos that have maybe the words on the screen in other ways?
Right. So that's a ton of information, a ton of stats. What do we do with all of this now?
3 takeaways. Takeaway number 1, pay attention to the first 3 seconds of each of your videos, including the first frame. The first frame on Instagram and on Facebook, probably more importantly on Instagram, will be the thumbnail of your video. So I see this a lot where people have like a black beginning
frame,
and then they fade in, but their video just looks black. That is not engaging whatsoever. No. And when it comes to the videos that we see in our feeds, those first 3 seconds are where you are going to either gain someone's attention or lose it. So pay attention to that very beginning of your video. That is where all of the attention is up for grabs, and there's going to be a huge drop off after that. So focus on those first 3 seconds.
Yes.
Takeaway number 2, begin asking yourself, how can we do more with video in 2019 and moving forward? We're doing this ourselves.
We are.
For example, we invested a ton in Facebook video and YouTube video in 2018 with long form content because we weren't doing as much as we should have been doing on YouTube. And looking forward into 2019, we're asking ourselves, how can we now take this long form and turn it, reproduce it, or repurpose it in a micro format, in a short form format for Facebook, but also more importantly for Instagram? You should be asking your church this as well. How can we invest more into video? Should we hire someone in-house? Should we outsource? What can we do? And then finally, takeaway number 3, what can you do with video, recognizing that most people won't have sound on, at least at first? We covered that briefly. Recognize the way that people are consuming video and then reverse engineer, understanding their behavior, how you can reconcile what you're trying to do with what they are already doing.
Right. You have to look at the behaviors of users. And I hope that's what these statistics have kind of helped our listeners do today, kind of see how people are interacting with video, why they're interacting with video that way. And like you said, reverse engineer what you're going to make and how you're going to make it that way. Don't create some sort of strategy based off of what you think is going to look best or serve you as a creative best, because frankly, that doesn't matter. Reverse engineer how to reach your people based off of their behaviors. And these stats give you some great insight into how people are interacting with video online.
Of course, we want to help your church with social
Yeah.
media. So we put together a checklist. We're calling it the new checklist social media for churches. If you go to checklist.church, you can download it for free. It'll also be linked in the show notes. The perfect partner for when you are planning out these posts.
Yeah.
Every single thing you need to consider to make sure you're setting your church up for success. The new social media checklist for churches linked in the show notes, or go directly to www.checklist.church. And that'll do it for this episode of Pro Church Tools. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel so you never miss another video.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Congratulations. Why don't you go ahead and obliterate that like button?
Take the like button and smash